Now everything is easy 'cause of you.
Well, hi there. You're listening to Home Wizards, and I'm Cindy Dole.
And I'm Eric Stromer.
And we're here to help you improve your home, improve your life, and it's Labor Day weekend, and it's still kind of hot out there.
It's still kind of hot, and it's still going on. And, you know, I had a party yesterday.
What's going on?
The whole party thing. I had a party yesterday. I've got one today.
Wait, you're not bitter, though.
I'm not bitter. I'm just exhausted.
Okay.
And so here's what I was thinking. I'm pressure washing my deck, you know, because I'm trying to get it ready for this party. And, you know, you realize this deck is beautiful. I spent probably the equivalent of about 300 hours doing it because I was, you know, trying to get it done in time for you know, after work, because I was a contractor for 20 years. And when I was finished with work, I'd have to come home and do this big deck project because I wanted to make sure that my wife would still honor me by being the guy that actually did stuff around the house. So I tried. It got to a point where ultimately the neighbors were just kind of feeling sorry for me, at the same time looking at me going, please stop with the saws. It's now 9 o'clock. It's still not done. Eric, we hate you. Please make it end.
So to your face, they're pretending everything's great, but they're...
That's right. But yeah, they're grimacing, and they offered me beverages at first, and by the end of this process, they were kind of turning their lights out and just gruffing and turning their heads and walking away. But the deck is finished. It's pressure washed. It is Labor Day, and now it's beautiful.
See, we've pressure washed our pool deck before, and, you know, you have to be kind of tricky because we've had flakes of paint peel off. Right?
You know, and for folks out there that don't know the pressure wash idea, it's essentially this machine that you can rent from a big box store, and there are different tips you can put on it to create different pressures. Like imagine a car wash, right? Mm-hmm. This mist comes out on the surface that you're cleaning. If it's too intense, it'll literally, like in your experience, it'll rip the paint off the deck. So you have to kind of decide which tip to use. So clearly you had one that was probably for removing paint, which you did. And it worked, but it was a little too much.
Well, let's talk about what we can do to improve our deck. If not now, definitely in the very near future. Because, hey, here in Southern California, we're living outside. And I guess there's some things we have to think about before you even choose what kind of material, right? I mean, isn't it about how you use your deck or how you use your outdoors?
The great news about being in California for all of us is that we can turn the outdoors into the inside. In other words, we can make the outside and the inside out, and decks are a great way to do that. And sometimes you don't have the imagination to understand that you can continue your house and get another couple hundred square feet with a great deck, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, you have a window facing the backyard that's just a traditional window. You could blow that out and turn it into a nice sliding door and then have a deck come off of that, and pretty soon you've got an egress in and out of the house, and you've got a great place to party, and all of a sudden it's a beautiful scenario just like you see on TV. But wait, you got to build it first, so that's where you run into problems.
But wait a minute. I mean, do you think the decks are a DIY thing? Because you were on that show Over Your Head. I mean, do you kind of get over your head doing your own deck?
Yeah, you do. You know, it's an intense project to take on, but it's rudimentary in its origin if you just kind of learn some simple steps, and it's easy to do, but you have to allot the time, the money. I mean, let's talk about something like a 10 by 12 foot deck, for example. That's going to be about $500 to $1,000 in materials. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the money to do it, and the time is.
You know, that doesn't sound too much. I mean, for us, the deck that we have, we're probably in need of doing some major stuff with the pylons because we have a hillside deck.
Well, yeah, yours is a whole nother level. You live on a hillside, so each of those pylons, that's about $30,000 a piece.
Thank you. Guess what you get to be doing real soon?
Oh, digging a trench and a hole in a cylinder, I imagine. I can't wait. Thank you.
I mean, that's the whole thing with permits, you know, and getting the city engineer and all that.
You really you do want to kind of understand the process. So first of all, you're going to want to find out, do I need a permit for this deck? Right? Is your yard big enough? Are you going to go into the neighbor's yard if you go too high? Are they going to, are you going to be looking over the fence going, Bob, Don, love the new Speedo.
Can I have a couple legs?
Can I have a You need to shave the legs, friend. But yeah, so you have to find out, do I need a permit? And before you get into this big extensive project and you've spent all this money, what if an inspector walked by and said, hey, that's wrong, you can't do that, we've got to tear it all down? You'd want to pull your hair out, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, and I think, too, then isn't it true that if you haven't gotten a permit, not only do you possibly have to tear it out, but then you wouldn't be able to get the value of it in a resale?
Well,
it wouldn't count.
This is true on some levels. Now, let me clarify that. So, for example, when you get a permit, it's going to give you the ability to make new space usable in terms of square footage. For a deck, it's going to be more of a safety thing and an egress thing. Is it in the right place? Is it safe on a hillside? Is it too close to the fence? So, yeah, you are right about that. So definitely you want to do that. That's number one. And then number two, where am I going to put this thing?
And how am I going to use it?
And how am I going to use it?
Do I like to have tranquility? Do I entertain?
Do I want it right off my house? Do I want it freestanding? Is it going to be up 16, 18 inches?
Do I want my garden nearby? I think.
Wait a minute. Do I even want a deck?
Well, and when you say deck, I mean, I guess it's kind of patio. It's patio deck. It could be. And let's run through the different materials and what are the different pros and cons.
And before we do that, though, let's talk about if you're anything over 18 inches, you're going to have to trench out and dig posts and create cement tubes that have your support system. And in California, we don't have freeze thaw to contend with. So you only have to go about 18 inches deep.
We're not going to be doing that on our own, are we?
Well, you can. You can rent these auger bit drills that you can get from the home improvement store, and you're holding this huge machine that's like a huge drill that drills big holes in the ground, and it's a two-person job.
That sounds kind of overwhelming.
It's fun though. And you burn a heck of a lot of calories. So not only are you making a great deck, but you're losing weight.
Shaking and baking, right?
You really are. It's like one of those old exercise machines that moves your hips for you, you know. But yeah, you can rent these things. So you know, you do want to do some extensive research and understand what your options are. There's nothing, Cindy, worse than digging a hole 16 inches deep with a shovel. You want to kill yourself. It's really hard.
You're literally digging to China.
That's exactly right.
You feel like it's never going to end.
No, it's never going to end.
And there's rocks in there.
Rocks in the whole bit. And then once the holes are dug, you have to put these sauna tubes in, which are these cylindrical pieces of cardboard that hold a form, and then you pour cement in that, and you're mixing maybe 1 or 2 90-pound bags per hole. So, you know, by the end of one post, you want to just give up and quit the whole thing.
Well, let's see if there's something a little simpler, because that sounds really way huge.
That may be a little more of a over 3-4 month time on weekends. You know, give yourself a break. You know,
how about some things we could just do? You know, the different materials that you would say are good to think about for a project that's within a week or two.
Yeah, so a 10 by 12 foot deck, if it's on posts and piers, which are the preformed things that you buy at the hardware store, they're little cement piers, and then the deck builds on top of that. That could be done over a weekend with 3 or 4 friends. So 10 foot by 12 foot. That's about, again, $500 to $1,000. Some of the types of wood you would consider, definitely redwood is a great choice. It's a midway price point. It's beautiful. You can do it with or without stain. I personally like it raw. It ends up getting a little bit gray over time. If you put the stain on, it gets that really sort of rich red tone that doesn't. It looks almost artificial to me.
Yeah.
So I'd almost recommend not doing much because it's impervious to insects and wood rot and stuff like that. So that's a good choice.
That's a bonus.
Number 2, you have your cedar, which is also beautiful. Same kind of thing. It's a soft wood again,
and it ages to that silvery.
It gets that silver thing. Now listen. Check this out. When it comes to using any of these woods, especially cedar, if you have a fence made of cedar and you don't cover it, your sprinklers hit it, over time you're going to get a strange pattern where the water's hit the wood and where it hasn't. So that's why you may want to think about putting some kind of an oil over it or sealer or stain. So look into that. There's also these artificial materials too, you know, like composites, like Trex, which is
Trex
composite.
Is good looking.
So it's not bad.
You know,
it's a little more expensive, but the maintenance is virtually nothing.
And some of the kits that they sell, it comes with the lighting already part of the package, so that as you're creating stairs.
And I know you and lighting. Are you kidding
me?
The lighting. You get it to look like a bit of a show, and bam, you're
Let's
in.
Let's put on a show.
And then, you know, and then some of these tropical woods like Ipe, you know, Ipe was a wood that they used in Atlantic City originally for all the boardwalks, and recently they tried to do a replacement cost, and they ended up just going with cement, which is a little sad. So that whole under the boardwalk is now under the concrete slab, you know. So that, so you got the Ipe, which is tropical hardwood, and then and some other great products out there. But then your price point goes much higher, and you have to contend with a different budget from what we're talking about, between $500 and $1,000. You're going to get up into the $2,500 to $3,000 range.
Well, there's other methods. There's like brick, and there's aluminum, and the list goes on. But when we
come back, aluminum, I don't know. Let's talk about that.
I know. I'm not sure about
it. It's like a bleacher.
And you also have to get your dream deck vision going. You know, you have to think, what do you want it to feel like? And that takes you back to, again, do you want it to be Tuscan? Do you want it to be like that great contemporary hotel that you visited, a spa?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So we'll walk you through and have some more project ideas, and maybe you might even have to hire it done. But either way, we're going to have a great deck.
Absolutely.
We are.
That's what we're here for.
All right,
don't be afraid, everybody. We'll get through this.
Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole, Home Wizards here, a special edition on this Sunday, Labor Day weekend. We'll be back in just a bit here on KFWB News Talk 980.
Like a ton of bricks. Oh, I'm coming in to get you. Wanna see my picture on the cover. Wanna buy 5 copies for my mother.
I love the whole idea. I mean, it can be a stone deck, but remember we were at the Dwell event in Los Angeles a few weeks back? They had that prefabricated wood tile.
Oh, the 2x2 panels.
The interlocking tiles. And it looked like you can just kind of set it up like a puzzle on your existing patio. But there's probably more to it, isn't there?
Well, you can lay it out on a flat level surface, but you can also treat it the same as a decking material. You just have to create the frame, the simple frame structure that you use before you put your 2x6s on top of a traditional deck structure. So, yeah, it's a great option because you don't have to be locked into that traditional, I've got straight, cedar or redwood boards. This is my deck. You can actually create a really beautiful modern design element that we saw at the Dwell event. That was
even
great.
A mini little section where this is just for your seating area.
Right.
Just to kind of set that aside, whether it's on top of the grass. Could you put it on top of grass?
You sure could, yeah. You'd want to have it set off just a little bit so that it's impervious to the moisture from the grass. But, yeah, it's pretty simple to do. I don't want everybody to be intimidated by trying to create a deck on their own. There are some really simple ways to do it, on a 10 by 12 deck, like we said, $500 to $1,000, and maybe 3 or 4 weekends if you're not going too fast, and then if you've got 4 buddies helping you, maybe a little bit faster.
A lot of pizza.
A lot of beer. That's right.
You were saying aluminum, not so much, I guess.
Doesn't it feel like a bleacher at a high school football game a little? I don't know. I mean, I think
you want to do the human whoa.
Yeah, we're doing the wave. Yeah, and it also feels to the foot. Unusual to me. I don't know.
Not cozy.
I think it's beautiful from the design standpoint of a modern application, but I don't know if that's cozy to me. That's what I love about wood.
It's good for a drive-by. You don't want to
I think so. Hey, that looks great. Looks like people have a deck.
Well,
that's great for that.
And speaking of drive-bys, I think that's a great way to kind of figure out what is the look that you want when you start taking pictures of other people's backyards with their permission.
Yes. I believe
stalking people,
that's called stalking. And night vision goggles makes it a whole another level. Yeah.
But, take a lot of pictures. We all have cameras in our phones these days. I mean, that's a great way to kind of create your own inspiration board.
Sure is.
And with this one backyard, I'll never forget it. It's in Pasadena, and it was on a tour of ponds in Pasadena recently, and the whole thing looks like Bali. And the reason why the homeowners went this way is they loved visiting Bali, and so they recreated that with these pink and purple parasols as their umbrellas for their patio furniture, and they had these huge, humongous bamboo trees and a trickling waterfall, and of course this great wooden deck that looked like teak, and then it just really kind of took you back to this place. So I think that's important too, to kind of get the vibe you want.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Clients always ask me, well, what should I do? What do you think? What's the design style? And I say, like you said, take your phone out, your smartphone or a camera, and go to the neighbor who you admire and the house that you think is beautiful, and take a picture, and then use that as a place to start your inspiration. Tear sheets are always a great idea. Pull stuff out of magazines.
And ask them who was their contractor,
who was your contractor? Did you like him? Do you still speak to him? That's always a good sign, yeah.
Well, so you've seen a lot of bad decks, haven't you?
I've seen a lot of bad ones, yeah. Yeah, and what makes a bad deck is preparation and foundation. So if you don't...
they're wobbly? Or
they're wobbly, they're not square. This is critical and key, and they're unlevel, and it feels strange. Remember the old Batman TV series where everything's kind of on an angle? If it's not flat and square, it's going to feel like that. So you want to make sure that that's done right. So let me just take you through quickly. It's very, very simple. So you're going to buy your wood, 2x6s.
You think that's
redwood?
Wood is simple. That's better.
I think
than
for
brick?
a first choice, brick's a whole different world. Let's stick in the wood world right now, just because I think it's going to be easier for first-timers to do. And I want to get everybody through this process together.
Okay.
We're hand-holding you here.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. So it's 2x6s, maybe in redwood, and then you're going to get 2x8 or 2x12 for the frame. So you're creating basically a 10x12 box. You start with a thing called a ledger that bolts to the side of the house right under the place where you're going to go in and out of the house, and that goes right into the foundation of the house. And then you have a girder that's exactly opposite of that, parallel to it, 10 feet out. And then you put sides on that box, right? And you're going to do posts, in our case, and piers that you're going to get at the local lumber yard, and you're going to get 6 or 8 of them.
And you're going to be going there multiple times.
Because just be prepared to drive back and forth and have them on speed dial as you go through the process. And you put these out in an even manner so that they're going to maybe 3 in the front, 3 in the middle, and then your ledger will take care of the stuff on the house where it'll attach. And then you build that box on top of those posts, and then you lay out your decking. And I know it sounds like I'm simplifying it, but it really is basically that way. If you go online and look at some great resources, we have it, on our website, www.yourhomewizards.com, and you'll be able to find great information on decks there as well. And don't be afraid. This is something that you can easily get through with a little research beforehand. Beer and pizza and $500.
If we have grass, because a lot of folks, who have lawn, ourselves included, I mean, we're all trying to think about, you want to have a little bit maybe because it does not feel good on your feet, but gosh, it sure uses a lot of water, and gosh, it sure has a lot of weeds, and how do I make sure that it looks attractive and also is drought tolerant? And I think that hardscapes is a great way to go. It's a great solution. Get rid of maybe a third of the grass.
Yes.
Could you put in flagstone? Would that be a good solution?
Yes, that's a great solution. Absolutely. You can easily just cut out the grass area where the sod is, remove it, make sure that your sprinkler heads are not where you're going to put your flagstone. Same goes with a deck.
I mean, what about just using gravel? I mean,
you can use gravel too, like DG or something. But
yes.
I'm not crazy about DG if you have hardwood floors, because you track it into the house on your shoes inadvertently, and then you always
scratches.
Yes, it does. It's beautiful.
And the dog.
It's beautiful in a English country garden back in the 1700s and stuff. But when you walk into the hardwood floor, it kind of gets a little bit of a problem. But if you are the kind of people that take your shoes off, which the Stromers clearly aren't,
and it gets it gets into your toes, and then you probably bring it into the sheets, and it's everywhere.
But you've done microdermabrasion on your body as you're sleeping.
Polished feet.
Yeah, that's right. But no, flagstone's a great option. You do a sand bed generally. You level the sand out with a 2x4 and get it nice and flat, and then you just place your flagstone where you want it, close together or farther apart if you want that look of a larger grout joint, and you can brush grout in the center of it or cement or whatever you want and hose it down, sweep it off, done.
Let's talk about concrete decks.
Yeah,
because we have a concrete deck, and
I love the look of the concrete,
and it was painted when we moved in, so once it's already painted, you can't very well do like that staining, that cool thing that they have a lot of these kits out there for now that give it that look of stone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. The only problem with that is there's a bit of a learning curve with the acid washing, because you have to etch the cement so it'll suck into the cement and hold. So as long as you're not near grass and you hose it off, and there's that's bad. That kills things.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful look, and again, with some information, it's a great way to go. It's not that difficult to do. On
a pool deck, you don't want to have that slip and slide effect, right? And so what we did was we added sand to the paint.
Oh, that's nice.
And also you want to choose a paint color that's going to be light enough, because the people that had the house before us, it was a dark color, and you could, even our dogs.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you can't even walk across the deck.
That.
Their poor paws were burning up, because it's amazing how that darker color just sucks in the heat when it's outside around the pool.
It's like a Tony Robbins seminar walking over hot coals, isn't it?
It's a religious experience of some kind. But have you ever added a little bit of sand? Like
yes.
a couple cups of sand?
Non-slip. It's great. Yeah.
And it gives it kind of a neat textured look.
That's it.
I mean, it's very
exactly
much old school, but you could do that to kind of quickly upgrade your deck.
That's right. And the applications when it comes to cement colorants, just as long as you wear chemical resistant gloves, respirator, and some goggles to protect your eyes, you're fine. You can experiment. It does etch. You got to make sure it doesn't touch metal, because that could become an issue. And always have water handy, and read the directions, and just get familiar with the concept of it before attempting it. But yeah, it's something that you can do. I just want everybody to not be afraid and try these things in little areas, test areas first, 2x2 foot areas, to make sure that you're doing it right. Walk away for a couple of minutes, get a sandwich, come back.
But so make sure that we are budgeting enough time, because that's the other thing, is you get all pumped up and confident to do it, and then it's like anything else. You're so enthusiastic, and you go in with both feet first, and then if you don't have enough time allotted, and then, oh my gosh, it becomes manana, and now all of a sudden you're beating yourself up because you didn't finish it.
And then you get full of shame and guilt and fear, and then you shut down, and then 8 months later
and
it's
then
still not done.
your spouse is saying, maybe we should hire someone that can do it right.
That's right. And then when they say that, you go, oh,
ow.
I've been crushed.
No, people don't ever say that to you, though. No.
Well, my wife has said it on occasion. Then I do some micromanaging, and the guy is driven away.